What is up, everybody? Welcome into quarantine episode 4 of the Madness, I believe. I'm running. I don't even know.
125 total.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell day it is anymore. We're here. We're in quarantine. But the good news is the long wait for something relevant in the sports world is upon us. Within 24 hours of us recording this podcast here today, the NFL draft is around the corner. Joining me, as always, Rob Lange, is Jessica Town from her famous puppies home. It's not even yours anymore. Your puppy's
not mine anymore.
Yeah, rocking Merrill Reese calling Nola's actions in the house, which is always fun. Jess, how's quarantine life? Any better? Any worse?
Pretty much about the same. We're running out of food a little bit, so I have to go to the grocery store tomorrow. It's very exciting. It's my day trip out for the week. We did a happy birthday parade for my dad on Monday night. That was very exciting. Awesome. We blocked the entire section of the street off because we all get out of our cars to wave and talk to each other, but from lengths apart, so we blocked a good chunk of the street. But other than that, same old. Well, and then a special guest we have today joining us from 4th and John. He does one of the best jobs covering the Eagles. He's always working. I've done a couple other shows with him in the last couple of weeks. That is Chris Malley of 4th and John. Chris, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me on. I'm just so pumped up for the draft. We're less than 24 hours away. I think everyone's kind of not sure exactly what we're going to do. Seriously, I don't even think Howie knows what he's going to do because he's going to be fielding calls over the next 24 hours. But it's going to be exciting. It's an awesome draft class, and we have 8 picks. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, and I'm sure there will not be much sleep in the Roseman household today. He was on NFL Live actually earlier today, showing his draft room, which was just awesome. First of all, he's got this fireplace in there that's incredible. That's the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this guy's gonna be chilling with a glass of whiskey for most of the draft. But so let's get right into it. Obviously, you'd have to be under a rock to not think that the talk has been the Eagles and wide receivers here in the first round. It seems in many places it's a foregone conclusion. I know that there are some reports today that he's not married to the idea. Chris, where do you stand on this? Is a wide receiver absolutely necessary in this first round?
I wouldn't say it's an absolutely necessary. I really want a first-round receiver, but at the same time, you have to see how the board goes, and you guys see how the value is because potentially you do want one of the big three, Judy Ruggs and Lamb. Justin Jefferson's probably pegged as 4 as most scouts and NFL GMs are seeing it right now. But where's he going? Do you trade up maybe a couple of spots to make sure you get him? Because you know that the Vikings are right behind you, and they just got rid of Diggs, and they might be looking to trade up to get a guy. It's really, really like a chess match, though, because they're talking about the Falcons moving up maybe to 9. They even just reported that the Falcons might move into the top 5. Which is pretty crazy. I don't know if they're looking at a quarterback maybe, but at the same time, I don't think so because Matt Ryan's contract. I mean, personally, it goes by deals because if you can move back, let's say I've been throwing 2 trades, Miami at 26 or Baltimore, in the lower 20s, both teams have 2 second-round picks. So potentially, let's say we move back to the late first round, and there's a bunch of receivers you like. Let's say Mims, Ayuk, Rigger, and Hamler are still all available in the late first. Do you take the Patrick Queen and the Kenneth linebackers that you really need? Because our defense is desperate for linebacker too, just like our offense is desperate for wide receiver. So it'd be kind of nice though if you do move back. Let's say you get Patrick Queen, and then the second you take Rigger or starts to slide into the second, and then you still have your other second round pick at 53. So it's tough. I mean, I'd love to move up and get one of the big 3, but I can also understand moving back. It's not me just trying to be indifferent to not be wrong about a take or anything, but seriously, I don't want to give a dishonest answer. I don't know what we're going to do.
From my personal opinion, I have said several times that if the Eagles choose now of all times to prioritize the linebacker position and draft a linebacker with their first round pick, I will literally throw my computer across the room. I will jump off the balcony. I will be livid because no one was angrier than me that they let Jordan Hicks walk. We could have started a GoFundMe to pay Kamu Grugier-Hill's salary that he got from, where is he? Miami?
Yeah.
Is that where he went? Okay. We could have started a GoFundMe to have that paid in no time, actually. And we have about a linebacker and a half on the roster right now. I understand that they need a linebacker, and they should take one at some point. Do you really think that they would stay at 21 and take a linebacker instead of trying to take one of those guys? Just like realistically, is that something that you think they would do? And what are your personal thoughts on them taking a Patrick Queen or somebody at that position, at that linebacker position at 21 instead of a receiver?
If both are available, I'd want to move back, because if both are available, like I can't imagine a team like teams behind us going back-to-back linebackers. I know Baltimore is going to be looking for a linebacker. Maybe they trade up and take Queen or Murray. But at the same time, is like I really like both guys. I think that they would be solid picks at 21. But at the same time, is you want to get as much bang for your buck with your pick. So if you can move back, grab the Rager, grab the Mims, grab the Ayuk, and then in the second round, even third round, because they love Logan Wilson out of Wyoming. I think he'd be a lights out pick in the third round. You don't have to get as much as I like the big three linebackers with Simmons, Queen, and Murray. I think that would be utilized very well here. Most all because we've been surviving going without the linebackers. Not that I want to anymore, but I think that it's more priority to get Carson Wentz some weapons, because he earns every single yard he's getting. These guys aren't guys that are breaking away. They're not breaking away on small routes, intermediate routes. You don't see Greg Ward catch a slant and go 80 yards. It's nice to get a freebie once in a while. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
I agree. I think you want to get Carson Wentz as playmaker, and obviously we're all on the same. I think everyone in Philadelphia is in the same boat. One of the big three would be our number one priority. After that is where the dissension and the arguments have been, and it's really with the guy by the name of Justin Jefferson, right? And you have people like me who look at Justin Jefferson and just see an excellent talent, a guy that, is he the burner that everyone wants? No, but he's not slow. I mean, he ran a sub 4.540 at the combine. He's a volume catcher. I mean, the guy catches anything that's around him. And then you have the other side. He says, well, he's a slot receiver. We don't need that. We need the burner on the outside. We need this. I stand at, we need elite talent at wide receiver position, regardless of where along they play. I'm curious where you stand with Justin Jefferson, because to me, if the first three go and you still get him, that's one hell of a consolation prize. Well,
I'm an LSU fan, and right behind me actually have my Justin Jefferson sweatshirt, so I have a very high opinion of him. I try not to talk about him too much because people will think I'm biased, but the thing with Justin Jefferson that people don't understand is he played in the slot because he had an alpha like Jamar Chase being able to stay on the outside. It doesn't mean he couldn't play on the outside. It means Joe Brady's smart enough to say, I'm going to utilize all these weapons I have. They had an NFL offense that they had going on, because Joe Burrow is going to be the first pick. Jamar Chase might be the first wide receiver next year. Justin Jefferson's supposed to be a first-round pick this year. Clyde Edward-Helaire. They had Terrence Marshall. They had Randy Moss's son as their tight end. So the whole thing was Justin Jefferson just caught 100. It was 11 balls. I think it's SEC third all time. It's Amari Cooper, Justin Jefferson, and why am I forgetting the third guy? But it's not a mistake that Justin Jefferson had 1,500 yards, 111 catches, and 18 touchdowns. The craziest thing is people were arguing I don't think he's worth the 21st pick. It's he might not even make it to 21. Who knows? He's that talented and teams love him. He has arguably the best hands. He is an intricate route runner. He at the top of the route, he's always stacking. And the big thing is the 4.43 at the combine kind of shocked people because on film it doesn't really show up per se. But Justin Jefferson is a guy who was a two-star recruit. Both his brothers went to LSU before him, and you saw him just improve, and he played the best competition this year. LSU had one of the hardest schedules I've ever seen, and everyone got to see him play against the top-notch talent and perform all the time. So my opinion is very high on him. Do I have some guys above him? For sure, but I think that he would be a mismatch nightmare, because imagine if you have a crossing pattern with Ertz and Jefferson across the middle, someone's going to be open, and the whole thing is we're not tied to only taking one wide receiver. And I think people need to understand that. Like, we can get another receiver later. And Justin Jefferson would give Carson Wentz something that he hasn't had in a long time. Someone who gets open and catches the ball, which is sad to say that for 4 years, this guy hasn't had someone that gets open and catches the ball consistently. Because Justin Jefferson's awesome. He's like the ultimate safety blanket.
I mean, yeah, that's the one thing I've said the most is I don't really give a crap who it is. I just want someone who can catch a football. And that's like you said, it's really sad to say that my only requirement is that you can catch a football, but apparently that's a difficult one these days, I guess. I don't know.
For us, apparently.
Apparently. But going along that, obviously you talked about Justin Jefferson's hands and you know, he's got some of the best hands in the draft. If they do stay at that 21 or they move back and they're, you know, one of their first picks ends up being some of those later round guys like an Ayuk or a Mims or someone like that, of those guys, who would you prefer they pick in terms of who has the best hands? I don't care. Everyone keeps saying, oh, we need a burner. Oh, we need someone to go. You could literally be the slowest person in the NFL. You could run slower than the biggest lineman in the NFL. But if you can catch the football, I literally don't care how fast you can run. Who would you say is like has the best hands of those later round guys?
Later round guys, I mean, like still in the first round, because you're saying Mims or in general.
Both. So some of the guys who might be the later first round or early second round, and also some of the guys that, because you just mentioned, you know, obviously they're not tied to just taking one receiver. Some of the guys that they could take in the third or fourth round.
Yeah. Some of the best hands in the draft. Obviously, we said Justin Jefferson, James Prochet, Daniel Jeremiah. Highlighted him. I love him. His coach was telling me he thinks he's going to be like the next Jarvis Landry. Great in the slot, incredible hands, aggressive at the point of attack. Antonio Gandy Golden from Liberty. I posted a picture of that dude's hands, like him holding a football. It looks like a baseball in his hands. Like, the dude's gigantic. He had a 2% drop rate in 4 years, 1,000 yards every season. Who else do I like? I'm trying to think. There's so many, like, all these guys have really great hands, except for it's like Hamler. Hamler had some drop issues. Judy even had some concentration issues. And Mims has some concentration issues. And Ayuk isn't exactly a contested catch guy, but he's a guy that's just like a home run threat, because there's very few people that are like Ayuk that are just catching like a slant and going 80 yards consistently through his film. And the weird thing is, people talk about Jalen Reagor's hands all the time, but if you watch his quarterback play, like, obviously I'm going to knock the guy a little bit for some of the concentration catches. Like, he would be in on a slant and he would kind of like get like his eyes upfield first, hits him in the hands, drops it. But he makes so many contested catches as a guy who's not gigantic. Like, he's 5'10", 5'11", but his vertical is insane. He's jumping over 42 inches on his vert. He's just a superb athlete, and you see the desire to get better, and that's why I like him. That's why someone was saying, like, why do you like him even though he has a drop issue? Like, I'm like, I don't think he has a drop issue. I think he's dropped the ball some, but if you watch him on the next play after he drops the ball, he always makes up for it, whether it's a punt return, kick return, or a big play the next play. And that's the difference between the Nelson Aguilars and like the guys who drop, like, and the Julian Edelmans. Julian Edelman has been in the top 3 for drops in the NFL last like 5 years, but he'll drop the ball, but then he'll catch 15 more in the same game. That's how it is with Jalen Reagor. He'll drop the ball, but then he'll have a punt return for a touchdown, a kick return for a touchdown. He'll take the ball 70 yards. His quarterback will miss him on like 10 straight throws, and then he'll finally catch one and on his own go 80 yards. And it's frustrating because people blame him for a lot of stuff, but if you give him Carson Wentz, a weapon like that who's always open and has a desire to always be working harder, you have something there. That's why Jalen Reagor has been my first round guy the last month, since his stock is kind of like pushed up into that range.
Chris, I want to talk a little bit about Denzel Mims, who made a little bit of news. He went on a podcast over the last week and was asked about his visit to Philadelphia, and basically gave this response of, it was kind of scary. There were a lot of scary people I don't vibe with. I was a little frightened. And I said, and, it's recency bias. I know that. But immediately when that happened in my head, I went, nope, I don't want anybody that's got these mental case issues. I can't have it anymore. I feel like every wide receiver the Eagles ever draft is a mental case, and I don't want it. I mean, what are your thoughts when you hear him say those things?
So interesting enough, I talked to Jalen Rieger, Jerry Judy's, and Denzel Mims' coach, and all I heard about Denzel Mims is he's not from like a city atmosphere. Like he's come from a small town, real nice kid. I don't think he ever left Texas really. Like I think he went to Baylor, grew up in Texas, so I don't think he's really used to like the crowds. But to be honest, like come on guys, like we experienced the Super Bowl like here and saw everything going on. Like Philly's special, like and like for better or worse. So I'm not surprised that maybe he saw some things that he's never seen before or heard some things that he's never seen before and it kind of took him off guard. Personally, Denzel Mims has never really cracked into my top like 5 or 6. I talk about him a fair amount, but I've done film studies with him and I've always seen him as like kind of like shaky floor guy, but has like an insane ceiling because his film he's not really separating, but then he blows the door off at the combine and he has a great Senior Bowl. And I've just been talking to so many scouts trying to like figure out Denzel Mims because everyone thinks he could be like the best receiver in the draft down the road, but like how much do we trust um our development of wide receivers? Like look who have we developed in the last 4 years? Like it's kind of I really do like Aaron Moorhead. I'm gonna put some faith in him because I feel like he's been talking to the right receivers. I like Courtney Davis in the draft. I saw that he coached Christian Kirk, who's really emerged last year. But the whole thing with Mims is like I took it with a grain of salt because I tried to put myself in his shoes, like try to be empathetic. Like he was probably nervous. Like I don't know how many interviews he's really done and like or what he's seen in his life. Like I think he misspoke in a way, but at the same time, like I'm glad he was honest about it. You know what I mean? Because getting that like clarity, like how he felt and him feeling honest enough to talk about it, like it was good. But that's the personalities though, because like Jalen Rieger is on Twitter, like I know how good I am. I don't care what you guys say. I'm gonna prove you wrong. And then you have like the Ayuks that's like I don't care where I go. Like I see Philly's tough. I'm tough too. Then you have the Mims that's very transparent. Like yeah, it was like it took me by surprise. Like I always saw scary people, blah blah blah. But like I don't know. I mean, I'd be okay with taking him. Personally, I don't want to take him in the first round. I don't think that should be a priority for us to take Mims in the first round. Maybe even Ayuk in the first round, especially after the injury. But you definitely have to take personality into account because look what happened with Nelson Aguilar. Because when you listen to him talk in interviews and like he sounds like a really good guy. Like everyone that's told me about Nelson, he's a really good guy, but he just compiles problems and he can't. It's like he's his own worst enemy. Like he'll make a drop and then he just gets in his own head. But I don't know.
So a really good point you made is that the Eagles can't develop a wide receiver. I mean, they're on their 5th wide receiver coach in 5 years. We hope this one sticks. We hope this one's different. But I thought something that was really interesting was there was a report that came out, I forget from who, over the last couple of days, and it was talking about the idea of the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside pick. And they had, who was picked right in front of him? Mecole Hardman.
Right in front. Mecole Hardman.
Yep. Yeah. So he was the person that they were looking to take, and I guess the Chiefs took him directly in front of the Eagles, and they had to kind of decide what they wanted to do. And there were 2 people that really wanted to take someone else. One person wanted to take JJ, and they couldn't really figure it out. And Howie decided to go with the one person who he trusted more. What do you think, based on the people you know, who you've talked to, when it comes to this whole new world for this draft? The fact that they're going to be separate. Yes, Howie has his whole war room set up that he showed on NFL Network today. And they all have their different setups. What do you think that's going to do for impacting the Eagles, especially when something like that comes up? Like, do you personally trust Howie to make that right decision? Because, Sam and I have talked a lot on Babes on Broad about this, and Rob and I have talked about this as well, that there's 2 options for how I think this goes. It's either a lot of GMs get exposed for how they really cannot see and scout talent, or it's the other way where it doesn't allow them to outsmart themselves or get too cute with it. What do you think is actually going to happen with the Eagles, and how do you think that's going to go for the Eagles and honestly other teams around the NFL for this new draft setting right now?
That's an awesome question. I mean, from the jump, I know it gets overstated all the time. People are like, this is the most important offseason ever. But, like, in my opinion, like, this is definitely one of the most important offseasons in Eagles history. Like, Joe Douglas is gone. Andrew Berry's gone. Howie's like the lone guy. Like, we don't even have an offensive coordinator. Like, and on top of it, we have all the coronavirus and COVID-19 stuff going on. So, like, it is crazy trying to navigate this entire world, let alone an NFL draft where hundreds of guys are going to have their lives and careers and, like, where their homes are going to be. So, the big thing is I do trust Howie Roseman. That's point A. B is I trust the 2020 class. I think that this class literally is like almost like having a like a blank check, and you're about to go to Home Depot, and you know something's broken at the house, and you can go and get whatever tools and things you need at Home Depot with the blank check, and you go home and you fix it. We have that, but the problem is, are we going to get the right things from the draft? The players are there. I've been saying there's corners we need, there's safeties we need, there's interior linemen we need, and there's definitely wide receivers there. Everyone talks about how deep the wide receiver draft is, like how like the class is. It is. There's wide receivers everywhere, and honestly, compared to what we have, almost anything's an improvement. The big thing, the reason why I do trust Howie is I like seeing improvement. Howie Roseman messed up with Donald Pumphrey. How much was it his fault? How much was it him listening to someone else? I don't know, but he brings you Miles Sanders. And you've seen in his career that Howie Roseman, after he's made a mistake, he's tried to improve from it. He talked about the aging players and not getting too emotionally tied down. He let all these people walk in the offseason, and he's been trying to get younger. And he did something different. He finally put Jalen Mills at safety, which people were trying to beg him to do for years. And it's just tough, though, because I think that he's going to do a good job. I think that it doesn't help that the communication is going to be wild because he's trying to communicate to his scouts and other people and Doug, and it's going to be fast. It's going to be really fast while trying to orchestrate deals. But I do trust Howie. I do trust this draft class that it has the right players. Obviously, coronavirus doesn't help out at all, but I think that they're going to navigate well. I think that they're prepared. If you saw Howie's war room, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe too many monitors, but I mean, let's just hope for the best, guys. I mean, he's had a really good offseason. Obviously, people are upset at him not picking up a free agent wide receiver, but to be honest, like, who did you guys want to pick up from free agent? Like, the wide receiver group. I mean, there's a couple people, but like, there's really no one that really pushed the needle for me compared to like some of the prospects. Obviously, they're prospects and anything can happen, but like there's some guys that we can get in like the 4th and 5th round that I think would be better than the majority of the free agents that were available, and they're a lot cheaper.
You know, and the one thing is my hope is actually because the communication is not going to be as great that there won't be too many cooks in the kitchen this year. Maybe has there been, you know, my assumption is he's going to have a say. Andy Weidel is going to have a say. Doug's obviously going to have a part in that. And, you know, hopefully they don't try and overthink it because of where the communication is going to be. You know, like I think what happened with that J.J. Arcega-Whiteside information was there were too many people. And you had the one side of the room who wanted was Paris Campbell because it was Jeff McClain wrote that article. They wanted Paris Campbell. Right. The other side, after McCauley, after Hardman was gone, the other side was saying Arcega-Whiteside. You know, they had a 1st-round grade on a DK Metcalf, but they were worried about him medically, which, you know, obviously hindsight being 2020 proved to not be the right decision. But, you know, there's not that many people being able to talk about a situation. Hopefully that makes them do the right things. And, you know, you talk about Howie fielding calls. You know, there's been a lot of rumors about him wanting to go up. CeeDee Lamb's the apple of his eye, that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. CeeDee Lamb's the apple of my eye.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, or Henry Ruggs are all apples in my eye. I want all of them. You know what I mean?
It's great.
And we know that they want to keep as many draft picks as they can. But do you think that he likes one of these guys so much that he's willing to part with a pick or two to go up? How realistic is it that the Eagles could be trying to trade up this year?
I think it's extremely realistic. I mean, you heard Howie Roseman in his press conference the other day. He's like, in the past, like, we've made mistakes. He goes, like, we try to learn from the mistakes. And, like, if you try to go from, let's say, 21 to 10, we saw a perfect example of it last year. Obviously, trades are different for every team and every situation. But we saw the Pittsburgh Steelers move up 10 spots, and they got Devin Bush, and it cost the first that year, a second that year, and a third the next year. Maybe we do something like that. Maybe we can talk to the Browns and we can get something done, because obviously Andrew Berry, we have familiarity over there. And the tough thing is, it would be nice if we had signed Vitae like a year ago or something and to a bigger deal, and we could have just shipped him off to be with Andrew Berry, because Cleveland desperately needs a tackle. But the good thing that I heard is they're looking at Ezra Cleveland, who's not supposed to be like a top. He wasn't even as great as a first-round pick, so maybe they are okay with trading down to 21 and giving us 10, and then we can get CeeDee Lamb and they can get the tackle that they want. I mean, just as realistic as it is moving up, I could see us moving back because Howie loves his picks. But at the same time, I think Howie is going to try so hard to move up, just because like he's sick of like the whole stigma, like Howie can't get the deal done, like he can't get Wentz receivers, he's hanging him out to dry. So I think he is going to try to get CeeDee Lamb, Ruggs, or Judy. But what's the price? And we just have to trust that like he won't do it unless the price is right or feels.
In your perfect world, what do the Eagles do tomorrow night in the first round?
In my perfect world?
In your perfect world.
Perfect world.
Who do they walk away with tomorrow night?
In my perfect world, they trade this year's first, next year's first, a third this year, and a compensatory, and one of our compensatory picks for Yannick Ngakoue, and the 9th pick from Jacksonville. And with the 9th pick, they take CeeDee Lamb. That's the perfect world, but I don't know, because we have Jacksonville going a little crazy down there, and I don't know if Howie's going to want to deal with the craziness going down in Jacksonville. But honestly, it makes too much sense because we love the defensive line. They have the 9th pick that would give us Lamb, Judy, or Ruggs, so it makes too much sense. But do they help us out? Maybe, because we're not in the same conference, but that's the perfect world. But even if we just get Lamb, Judy, or Ruggs, I'd be ecstatic. It would be awesome. You know, everyone's gonna be walking around with their jerseys on with their Trump checks. Yeah, everyone's spending all the money on their Eagles gear. I'd have a Lamb jersey in every single color. Seriously.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, it's really. I mean, Terrell Owens was here, but it was like, it seems like it was here and done that quick. Outside of that wide receiver. I mean, me and Jess were talking about top Eagles first round draft picks last week. When we did the show, and I had to bring up Mike Quick, and I said the only reason I'm putting Mike Quick on here is because it just doesn't happen that we get that first round wide receiver that is a staple for a long time here. So
the last one was Macklin.
Yeah,
and we
Macklin. That was also the one that they traded up for a receiver in the first round was Macklin. They traded up and got him. So maybe we strike gold here. Who knows? All right, let's move to the later round of the draft. Now, the second round is intriguing to me because I think there's a lot of prospects, especially in that second round. Yes, there's wide receiver prospects, and we know all about whether it's T. Higgins, Chenault, all these other guys' names that are getting thrown out there. But to me, the other two positions, a position of a major need, I think, for the Eagles is the safety position. Jalen Mills is here for a year. Will Parks is here for a year. Rodney McLeod's got 2 years, but he's getting older. And you don't have that heir apparent. And the last time we let go the beloved safety like we have this offseason, we didn't fill that hole until Malcolm Jenkins got here. My perfect world is Antoine Winfield. I just don't think he'll be. Yeah, I don't think he'll be there at 53. So if the Eagles do get some extra draft capital, say they trade back in that first round, is he a guy that you think that they would target almost immediately?
I'd hope so. I need to go over the visits and see how much communication they've had with him. It's so scattered because sometimes it's hard to record like a visit, which is just a FaceTime call. But like, let's say they move back, they get Jalen Reagor at 28. They trade for Miami's second round pick because they have 2 of them. At 36, they get Winfield because that's realistic. Maybe Winfield at 36 rather than 53. Because like, imagine that if they get Jalen Reagor, Antoine Winfield, and then at 53 maybe like Damon Arnett, and they hit corner, safety, wide receiver, or they hit corner, wide receiver, safety, and then maybe Ayuk falls because of the injury, or big question. Would you guys take Chenault if he falls to 53?
Yeah.
Because I think you have to do that. You have to do that.
We over on Party on Bro, we did a mock draft earlier in the week, and Chenault fell, and we were sitting there. We traded up. We drafted. Actually, I think Judy was the only one left. We drafted Jerry Judy, but as we got to 53, Chenault was still there, and we said, "Look, we don't know if the Eagles will double dip first, second round into a wide receiver, but Chenault's upside. I know that there's the injury there, but the upside with this kid is
incredible.
You get him at 53. You talk about Howie loving value. There may not be better value than that.
Not at all.
I don't think anybody would have a problem with that, though, if they were to double dip that quickly.
No,
I don't think there's anybody in the world.
No, I just don't know if their philosophy would allow them to do that.
Yeah.
I be honest with you, because I think there could be a few guys there at the end of that 53 pick that would be really interesting. I would love to see a double dip. One name that is really interesting to me in that is the idea of T. Higgins. Now, I know he's not high on a lot of people's lists. I know he didn't test well, but if you watch this guy, he had a hell of a career at Clemson. And I'm not saying him in the first round, but if you're sitting at 53 and T. Higgins is sitting there, I think you at least think about it.
Oh, absolutely. It would be overthinking if you didn't think about T. Higgins or Chenault in the second round. And like as I said in the beginning of the scenario, it's you move back, you get Rieger, and you get Antoine Winfield at 36 when you move backward. So it wouldn't be a double dip per se because you'd get that safety and other need in between. That's why it's so crazy though, because Howie's definitely like that's who I'd be calling though. I'd be talking to Miami. It's like, is their second first round pick that's in the teams on the board is your 36th pick and 26th pick. Like Miami's a team that has so many draft picks. Like that's someone that you call and you're like, listen, like if I can't get CD Lamb and I don't like who's going to be there at 21, can I move back with you? Because the second round is like loaded with talent. There's linebackers we need, safeties, corners, like maybe Jeff Gladney slides the second round, Damon Arnett from Ohio State, and like you get instead of like a cornerback 2, you have like a cornerback 1B to Darius Slay, because there's a lot of talented cornerbacks and safeties that are be going in the second round. So the big thing is you have a wide receiver, like, and then that's why when the whole lineman talks started happening in the first round, people wanted to lose their minds. I personally do not think at all that they're even considering taking Cesar Ruiz in the first round. Second round, maybe. I understand Kelsey might be leaving, but I don't think it has to be Cesar Ruiz. You have Cushenberry from LSU. You have Matt Hennessy from Temple. There's other guys, so I'm not making a point to get a early lineman, and I don't think they are too.
That kind of leads into my next question, which I was going to ask you. How should I phrase this question? Who has to be on the board still that falls for them, do you think, to kind of say, let's forget this strategy and, forget trying to take a receiver here or trade back? This person has fallen so far, we'd be remiss to not take this person that's so high up on our board. That's a tackle, DN, D tackle, someone else that's not any of these positions that we've talked about. Is there someone that you think might fall that far that could potentially intrigue the Eagles away from sticking with receiver or trading back and getting one of those higher level but maybe second round safeties or corners or linebackers?
I would say the big thing that causes all of this is how many offensive tackles and how many quarterbacks go before us. The quarterbacks is the biggest thing. Like, you need Jordan Love to go before 21 because that pushes someone back. You want Cleveland to take the Ezra Cleveland guy before your pick because it pushes people back. Because they said 6 or 7 tackles might go before we even pick. And the big thing is I think it would need to be a guy like maybe C.J. Henderson, I feel like he's going to go top 15 with all the chatter, but who knows, honestly, just because a lot of people have him as cornerback 2 and it's not even close. If he starts sliding towards 21 or gets to 21, they're definitely going to consider taking him because this is a guy that in 2018 led up 0 passing touchdowns in the SEC, which is insane because the competition level is amazing. People talk about his tackling, but at the same time, he still gets into scrums. Like, he just has technical issues. That's probably a guy that makes them think a little bit at 21 if he's there. But overall, I feel like if a bunch of quarterbacks and tight and tackles go before 21, which I think is going to happen and push some guys down, maybe the strategy is, wow, Judy and these guys, we can't get a trade to get them, but like Jefferson's going to be right there for us, or something. Like, do you just take Jefferson at 21 if he does slide to them, or if a lot of guys that they have in a similar tier are all there at 21, do they move back? But I feel like Henderson would be the one guy that they really think about taking at 21. That's not, because I feel like Mary and Queen are still going to be there at 21, but we'll see.
Yeah, the one other position, first, when you talk about the tackles, my hope is there's a run on tackles, but my hope is that a couple of the big names are there for Cleveland and the Jets, for the Jets especially, so that the Jets face that, hey, do we protect Sam Darnold? Do we get him the weapon on the outside to maybe push one of those big three back? The only other guy, this is a guy that I've looked at him, and his name, I don't know if he'll get past 16, 17, 18, but it's Clavon Chasen, the edge rusher from LSU. You know how Howie and the Eagles love the edge rushers. They love building between the trenches, and they have a spot there, right? I mean, they're getting older. Barnett's an unknown. So I think they're going to address that at some point. If Chasen fell and they're sitting there at 21, I would be curious if they would truly consider that, because he can wreak havoc coming off the edge from a pass rushing perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So we've talked about safety. The other position, obviously, is the linebacker. I know you mentioned Logan Wilson. Is there anyone else in those seconds, the third, fourth round guys that you think? I don't. The problem is this: they kind of need someone to come in and contribute right away. So I kind of, there are some guys that they can draft and develop and could become something, but I want to know more about the guys that would be able to come in those, second day, third day picks that maybe could contribute.
Guys that I really think of, Akeem Davis Gaithers from Appalachian State. He's awesome. I know a lot of guys are saying he could be like a first-round talent right out of the gate. And the big thing that we have to consider is we love our defensive line. And I think that it's going to make the linebackers' jobs 100 times easier because, listen, like, Nathan Gary, good guy, but, like, he's tough to watch sometimes. And, like, he even manages to do, like, semi-decent behind our defensive line. And we were banged up last year. Imagine if you had the Malik Jackson, the Fletcher Cox, the Hargraves, Barnett, Sweat, Brandon Graham's all healthy, and then your a young linebacker playing behind that. I think Davis Gathers would be good. I like Malik Harrison. He has to work on some fundamental issues, technical issues with coverage, but he's a tackling machine. He'd be awesome behind our front seven. I mean, our front four. Justin Strnad from Wake Forest. He's awesome. He's good in coverage. Very instinctual. Kid has a lot of heart. He's always around the ball. He's really good. I'm trying to think who else I like. The one guy that I was talking to you about, Rob, a couple weeks ago, Daly Harding from Illinois. I don't know why this guy's not getting hype. He's actually from Philadelphia. Him and Chase Young were like the two best guys I've seen in the Big Ten last year on the defensive side of the ball. Like, they were like, that was insane. He's like one of the first guys in the last 15 years. Harding, he had like an interception for a touchdown, a forced fumble, sack, like 15 plus tackles, like in a single game. Like, Daly Harding, he's a guy whose tape is like incredible, and I think he'd be a steal. He might even go undrafted. He didn't even get invited to the combine, and he was a Big Ten player of the week like 4 times, like multiple times. Like, he's a great player. Troy Dye from Oregon is a guy people like. There's just a whole bunch of linebackers to like. I mean, anything's really an improvement, but Justin Strnad, Malik Harrison, and Wilson. That's what I mean. I'm taking 2, and people are immediately like, we're not going to draft 2 linebackers. I don't even know if we're going to take 1. It's like, listen, like, I'm just saying we need a linebacker. Like, one good one really changes the group for us.
And they will take one. I mean, I feel like they always take one every year. You think, not to bring his name up and piss off Jess, but I actually really enjoy making Jess mad. Jordan Hicks was what, a 3rd round pick, if I remember correctly. And when they took him, I remember everyone saying, hey, look, he's got this little injury red flag, but he was a productive player. And he had a good career here. And obviously, hindsight.
I wish he was still here.
Hindsight being 2020, Jess. They probably should have kept him around. So I think that I would love to
before it was hindsight.
I would like to take them. I would love to see them take 2 linebackers. I think it's an absolute necessity. You let Nigel Bradham go. But we talked to Zach Berman last week. They're very high on TJ Edwards. That would be the only reason I think they may not take 2. Maybe they take 1 and then sign an undrafted free agent down the line, which could be an interesting crop at many different positions this year because of how deep this draft is. That undrafted free agent crop could really,
I think it's gonna be stacked.
yeah,
Stacked. Yeah. There's gonna be multiple wide receivers that you thought you would have to take in like the 5th round normal years. They might all go undrafted.
That's nuts. Who are players that you think, like, who would you not want to see? Because I remember, okay, so last year we all had lots of fun at the draft last year. Some of us had too much fun, and me. And
everyone there.
We were sitting in Xfinity, and we were completely ready. We saw the Eagles trade up, and we were expecting someone very exciting, like Rob's favorite person in the draft last year, Montrezl Sweat. He was very excited and really thought that's where we were going. And then they said Andre Dillard, and all of us went, who? And now, granted, we still don't know really firmly if that was a good pick or not, if that was a good decision or not. If that's still yet to be determined. Is there somebody, do you see the Eagles doing something like that again and really moving around and taking someone totally, I don't want to say random because he was a projected 1st round pick and they jumped in front of the Texans for a reason because they knew the Texans were going to try to take him. But, someone that isn't necessarily on the highest level of talked about radar kind of in the city that people are high on or talking about or think the Eagles are going to take. Do you think that there's a chance that they do that, or do you think that they pretty much have a strategy that they want to stick to?
I feel like the fear that fans have, it would be the Cesar Ruiz at 21. That's like the biggest fear that people have right now. I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like all the other quote unquote unknowns would be like the Mary or Queen. Do they actually put stock into a linebacker in the 1st? I think the only one that people don't like, and it's not even because he's not worthy of a 1st round pick, people can debate this. It's just because of the conference he played in, and people are gonna have like PTSD from Nelson Aguilar. But people like today, it was crazy on the timeline. Brandon Ayuk, like people are very split on him, and if we take him at 21, which he's been mocked to us at 21 several times, like I feel like it would be a very controversial pick for people because people won't even turn on his film. They're like, where'd he go? Arizona State. What conference is that? Pac-12. I don't want him. That's how people talked about him all the time with me. Like, they don't even want to talk about his film. They're just like, listen, like, I don't want Nelson Aguilar. And everyone is automatically comped to another Eagle. You talk about Justin Jefferson. Someone's like, oh, that's Jordan Matthews. He played in the slot. Like, that's what people get very narrow-minded. I mean, everyone's allowed to have their own opinion, but sometimes it's just like you're just being very ignorant about stuff. It's like, listen, like, form your own opinion. Like, he doesn't have to be an ex-Eagle player that we all not hate, but like that didn't live up to the expectations. I think that it would be Ayuk would be like the guy that like people if they take him at 21 when he's not exactly projected to be like. We'd kind of be reaching at 21 for him. Not that he's not worthy, but he has had the core muscle surgery. He could maybe be had like early in the 2nd. So I feel like he'd be like the one guy, like if they call him at 21, they don't move and they said his name, there'd definitely be some inaudible groans around like the entire world that you'd be able to hear from people quarantined.
See, I like Brandon Ayuk, and I agree that it's probably a little high, but I would be okay with it because I think he's a guy that's going to contribute. He's going to help. By the way, if one, Chris, you're a lot nicer than me. If one more person tries to tell me that Justin Jefferson is Jordan Matthews, I will call you a jackass, and publicly embarrass you because that is insulting.
It's so ridiculous. Like the one thing that like it's just catching in general. Like I've rarely seen Justin Jefferson drop a ball. Like and I don't know. I just don't see it at all. Like they don't play like they don't play similar at all, and it's just I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've said all along, I've kind of been on the Justin Jefferson bandwagon. If you're not going to get one of those next 3, he's the one guy I want. Like he's my choice A, B, C, and D after those first 3. is Justin Jefferson. I just think he filled its value and need for you going forward there. So, all right, so let's look. I'm trying to look at my list here of some guys, and that corner position. We were talking about the corner position. You know, yes, they trade for Darius Slay, but outside of that, it's a lot of question marks on this roster. Does Sidney Jones make a jump after an offseason where he's healthy? What is Avonte Maddox? Is Rasul Douglas even here? You know, Trayvon LeBlanc's a nice story, but he's more of a rotational guy that, you know, comes in on passing downs and makes plays. So unless, like you said, a CJ Henderson is sitting there, or say an AJ Terrell, you know, I don't see the Eagles taking a corner in the first round, maybe the second, maybe the third. Are there any names that we haven't discussed that you think would be really nice fits opposite of Darius Slay?
If you're looking for a CB2, like a guy that plug and play could compete with Maddox and Sidney Jones right away, second round, I think that there's going to be a lot of cornerbacks that people aren't even really thinking about. Like, that could be day one starters, and they are going to be. I really like Damon Arnett from Ohio State. He's awesome. He's kind of the forgotten guy because Jeff Okudah. Other than that, I would definitely say Troy Pride Jr. from Notre Dame. He's awesome, has the right size, right speed, athleticism, technically sound. There's one guy that I've always been kind of split on. It's Cameron Dantzler from Mississippi State. He's like, has the right size, but like, I feel like he's so small, if you know what I mean. Like, he's tall, he's lanky, but he's not that fast. And like, what does he weigh? Like 185 pounds, and he's like, what, 6'3", 6'2"? Like, he's kind of a small dude. Like, I obviously can bulk up, but like, he's not even that fast for me. Like, he's never been like a top guy for me. I know that they really like Amik Robertson from Louisiana Tech. Very undersized, but he's a playmaker. And he kind of fits what Jim Schwartz likes. He likes like the small, scrappy, versatile guys. Darnay Holmes from UCLA. I know they've looked at him a little bit, but I just feel like Troy Pride and Arnett would be like great second and third round pick guy for cornerbacks, especially because I feel like they could push the envelope and really become CB2, CB1s behind Slay after working with Slay for a little bit.
Where are you at here, Jess?
So I want to go into our list. I want to know who everyone's top 5 and top 5 to draft and top 5 not to draft it.
All right.
You want to go first, Rob?
Yeah, just first round for these lists. We'll keep it simple because when you talk about all 7 rounds and 800 people, it can get a little bit crazy. Let's do who we don't want to pick first. And we talked about this, Chris, a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to ask you to do it again. So number 5 on my list is Jalen Reagor in the not draft. And my reasoning is, Chris, you watch way more tape. I don't watch, you're way more into this than me. So I know that a lot of people say one of his biggest issues was the idea of drops. And when I hear that, I'm just scared to death because, recency bias, once again, that's what we've seen here for so many years. So that's why he's number 5. Like, let's put it this way. If they drafted him, I'm not cursing and throwing things. I just don't know if I'm, giving the golf clap, but yet or not.
You gotta see it first. You know what I mean? You gotta see it to believe it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think just because my heart's set on those top 4 guys, and then I start thinking of other positions, that's why I kind of put him on the list. But I wouldn't say I hate Jalen Reagor. I would just say drops scare the hell out of me. I mean, bottom line. So that's my number 5. Should we just do the whole list and then go?
You can do your whole do your first list. Yeah.
All right, number 4, I could have said basically any defensive end other than Clavon Chasen, but I put Gross Matos from Penn State. I don't want to see him taken by the Eagles in the first round. Not that he was a disappointment, but he wasn't what I think a lot of people expected this year. We were talking with Tom Stinson, who actually believes AJ Espinosa outplayed him in this past season. I would rather the Eagles avoid that just to pick a trench guy. Number 3, Denzel Mims for me. And once again, I was okay with it until the mental capacity thing. I agree. I understand what you're saying. He's just being honest. But I've seen it too many times here with guys that come in here, and whether it's you are mentally soft or you're like Freddie Mitchell and you're just insane or anything like that. I just would rather mental issues with our receivers not be a case right now. Number 2, and it's interesting because I said I would like him in the second round, but not in the first, and that's T. Higgins. I've seen T. Higgins mocked to teams in the first round. I don't want to see T. Higgins as an Eagle at pick 21. That one would upset me a lot because I think you don't need to. That's a reach if you ask me. And number 1, anyone that says offensive lineman next to their name, I'm going to be pissed. I will throw a fit and probably get blocked or thrown off Twitter for a week because of the things that I would say in the situation of them drafting an offensive line. So that's my thought. Not draft.
For do not draft, not really in order, but it would be Cesar Ruiz. He's an awesome player. I think he'd be awesome for our team, but I really don't want to spend a first round pick on a center, especially not the 21st pick. Trevon Diggs is probably the other one. I have a lot of corners ahead of him. I think he's a little raw. I think that he could really become something great. Like at 53, he'd be awesome if Diggs fell at 53, but I'm not taking him at 21. Mims, I personally don't want a 21. Hamler, I personally don't want a 21. And T. Higgins, I personally don't want a 21. All 5 guys would be good. I just don't want them in the first round, personally. Jess, who's your 5?
My 5, I have my entire list is going off the exact way that your number 1 went, Rob. Anybody with running back, linebacker, offensive lineman, or defensive lineman next to their name, no. If you are a quarterback, safety, or preferably wide receiver, I will make my piece. And the other one I have on my list, I don't want them trading back. I want someone taken at 21. There are plenty of holes to fill. There will be someone there that will make the team better. And it's, when you're sitting at 21, this isn't a team that's completely broken. It's not like they need everything in this draft. They have specific things that they need to fill. There will be someone to fill a need at that spot. Take someone. Please.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree. I kind of agree with you. I mean, I know it's in their nature to trade back. This is the year where I would rather not see that. I'd rather you trade up or stay at 21.
I really don't want to see it.
Yeah, stay at 21. Who's the best player on your board? If he's still there, you take him and you move on with your life at that point. I've had this debate with people. They're like, they need more picks. I was like, they have 8. To be honest with you, I don't need them to draft any more than 6 or 7 because you don't hit on all your picks anyway. Right. So if you trade up and get a CeeDee Lamb, I'm willing to let go of a couple of those picks. I don't need 10, 11 picks in this draft, especially with the track record of the last few years and the Eagles with the later round picks, the Donnell Pumphreys, the Clayton Thorsons, the guys that are getting cut in their first training camp after being drafted. They do better with the undrafted free agents than they do with those late round picks. So that's where I stand there. All right, so here's the top 5 we want. Number 5 for me would be, because I think safety is very important. If all the receivers are gone, there's top 4, Grant Delpit. I love the safety from LSU. I think he's a guy that could come in here and be that cornerstone safety for the next 10 years for the Eagles that they desperately need, in my opinion. So that would be a nice consolation prize if those top 4 wide receivers were gone. Number 4, I'm going against Jess. Shocking. I would be okay with Kenneth Murray or Patrick Queen. Why? Because it's a position of need. Because I think, once again, we talk about a cornerstone in the secondary. We haven't had that cornerstone linebacker. I don't know, Jeremiah Trotter? I mean, maybe.
That's because they keep letting them walk away.
Regardless, I want that guy. So if they draft him in the first round, maybe they'll feel compelled to keep them if they draft him in the first round. Think of it that way.
Can you imagine that?
And both of those guys are great side-to-side guys, but they come up, they tackle as well. I think there would be really nice fits here. It would be a nice thing to have. Number 3, I'll say, is Brandon Ayuk. I'm a little higher on Ayuk than a lot of people, and I think
I like Ayuk a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I look at him and I see, once again, we talk about catching. I see a guy catches the football. He just catches the football. He may not always have the space, but he catches the football. He can play on the outside. He could, do all those little things we want to see. And once again, we've said this a few times on this show. He's better than anything we got right now. You know, number 2 is Justin Jefferson. Honestly, the only reason he's not 1 is because I'm holding out that glimmer of hope that they're moving up. I love Justin Jefferson. I've loved him since I saw him hit people with that 1, 2, 3, 4 against Oklahoma in the college football semifinal. The guy's got swagger. He's got work ethic. From everything you read, he's a great kid. And then the talent is there as well. And then number 1, I'm going to cheat. Any of the 3 that you would trade up for. Any of the 3 that you would trade up for is my number 1 choice. It's what I want. Jess, we talked about it in January. Trade up should be the move. That's what you need to do. Put all your cards on the table, Howie. Get the guy you traded up for a few years back in Carson Wentz the weapon he deserves and the weapon he needs to be successful.
Okay, top 5. Number 5 for me, Patrick Queen. Love the guy. I really saw him grow into becoming one of the backers in the nation this year for LSU. He was lights out in all of the playoff games this year. Good kid. Awesome in coverage. Number 4 for me. It would definitely be Kenneth Murray. I've been so split on which one I like more. There's just something about Kenneth Murray. His story is incredible. I think he's a really high character guy. And the big thing is Oklahoma's defense kind of sucked, but they were good because of him. And that was the thing. Every single play, he was around the ball. It would be like a post pattern, and he'd be running down the middle of the seam trying to chase a wide receiver. And like I saw him get banged up in games, and he would just like kind of like shake his hand off just after he maybe broke his wrist and just go back in the game. Like Kenneth Murray, like that kid's got a lot of heart, and he's a playmaker. Like he's all over the place. I really would like him if we did go linebacker. For 3, I would have to say it is Jalen Reagor. He's awesome. I think he'd really cause defensive coordinators to stay up at night if you had the idea of him, Deshaun Jackson, and then we have one of the best tight end duo in the league down the seams, and then you still have to worry about Miles Sanders. I would say Justin Jefferson is number 2 for me. I think that he's just plug and play, ready to go. Like in the NFL, any team, he's gonna dominate the slot. Obviously, I think he can play outside a little bit, but why would you do that when he can sit in the slot and just dominate? He's going to be open all the time. He can get some yards after the catch. I think he was at 15 yards per catch last year, and he's just like this great safety blanket and stability. And then like you, I'm cheating. The big 3 is at number 1. Any of the big 3, preferably my list would go Lamb number 1, 2 Ruggs, Judy 3. And the craziest thing was everyone's just finding out about the knee issue with Judy, but for some reason I've always had him at 3, and that's from someone that watched all of his tape at Alabama. Like Jerry Judy's awesome. He's been like a purebred wide receiver since high school, but for some reason like I've always had a personal connection more with Lamb and Ruggs. Like I just think Ruggs, the best is yet to come for him. I know he's raw, but at the same time I don't think he's just like a one-trick pony. I think he's a tough kid. And then CeeDee Lamb, like flat out, he's just day 1, week 1, he's ready to go. He could be a guy that goes like 10 for 101 every game in the NFL. He's that talented.
Okay. Mine are all receivers.
Shocking.
I don't want anybody else. I
can't be mad at you for it. Absolutely.
I don't want anybody else. Number 5, I have Brandon Ayuk. 4, Justin Jefferson. 3, Henry Ruggs. 2, Jerry Judy. And 1, CeeDee Lamb. I told you I would do unspeakable things to get CeeDee Lamb in an Eagles jersey. I want him here so badly. I can't even explain it to you in words how much I want him in an Eagles jersey. You and I talked about it so much last year. We would sit and watch Eagles games, and there would be a ball thrown perfectly, and it would just be on the ground. And then you'd watch other games and be like, wow, look at these amazing catches these players make for their quarterback. It's unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable to watch. And I want that so badly, not just for Carson Wentz, but also for my own mental sanity.
We deserve it, honestly, after what we've dealt with and what he's dealt with.
Seriously.
Like, it was crazy. I was talking to someone like a couple weeks ago, and they like firmly disagreed with me, and they turned it into a completely different argument because I said like, how come there's teams like the Cardinals and the Browns, so, like they're not successful, but I'm like, it doesn't, like that's not the point of this argument. They're trying to build around their quarterback. We're not doing that. Like Dorial Green, Beckham trade, Shelton Gibson. We haven't drafted a first round guy since he's been here, and and just the fact that I was literally every single week since week 4 or 5 saying bring Greg Ward up, bring Robert Davis up, it can't get worse because they're talking about Matt Collins being the best graded receiver because he lined up in the right position. I'm like, all right, if that's the best thing you can say about their wide receiver and they're clearly not doing well, you have to do something. Like Greg Ward has been great in the preseason for us every single year, and that it's just so annoying. It's so frustrating. But I was saying listen, I get it, the Browns suck, but they still have all these weapons. You literally just need one of them for Carson because why make him struggle? We get it. He's that good that he can elevate people talent that isn't elite. He's making Greg Ward make life-changing catches against the Redskins, and he had that huge run at the end of the year, Carson Wentz, with maybe he was literally trying to balance an entire building on his shoulders while on a unicycle, basically. Carson Wentz was unbelievable last year at the end of the road. No one can ever take that away from him, but why make him struggle like that again? If you get a Brandon Ayuk type guy who can catch the ball in space and go 50 yards, that is something that we haven't had in so long. That's the explosive offense that we've been missing. Everything's dink and dunk, and we've been working around it, but at the same time, it's Miles Sanders is making a lot of our big plays on screen passes or wheel routes. You don't you like it, but you want that to be a part of the offense, not the big big plays that you're getting, the running back out of the backfield. It's sad. We need to get Carson Wentz help, and it's crazy to me that people don't believe in him and they blame him, but then they can't name 10 receivers that have been on our team that have over 300 yards in the last 4 years. It's crazy.
Well, the one thing is, obviously, it would have been a very entertaining draft for Philadelphia no matter what. But obviously, with COVID-19, everybody being quarantined, no sports on television, not only is Thursday night big, I think people are going to be locked in throughout this draft, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because, there's a lot, like you said, Chris, it's a deep draft. And there's a lot of guys out there that can really help the Eagles. And it all starts Thursday night. We want to thank Chris Malley for joining us. Chris, tell everybody how they can find you on Twitter, read you, all that stuff.
On Twitter, it's Malley_Chris_24. Just look up my name, Chris Malley. Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure just interacting with you guys all off season. All of our positive energy and efforts going towards making the team better, the fan base more informed, and just trying to keep everyone in a positive mindset while dealing with all this quarantine stuff. But guys, it's finally here. The draft's here tomorrow. It's a little taste of sports until we get the Phillies back. And please give us the Flyers back because they were finally going to make us all happy. But it's just so ridiculous. I feel personally attacked. I don't want to be selfish, but we all know the Phillies are about to take off and the Flyers. But thank you guys. Howie, we trust you. Please.
Well, Chris, you're the greatest.
Trust you, Howie.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Chris. Jess, before I let you go, every time I do this, something good happens. So I'm going to do it. Jess, will the Eagles trade up in the first round and get CeeDee Lamb?
Yes.
All right, Jess. Positivity. That's how we're going to end this show. We thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube at thepaintedlines.com, subscribing on iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. Until next week when we are celebrating a new wide receiver for the Eagles, embrace the madness. Have a great week, everybody.